I think you have to be more selective with people that you partner with. Just because you are seemingly like-minded, like everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. I just took for granted that, okay, this person it was decided that this person is going to handle the money. Okay, I know I'm responsible with money. If you tell me you got to put in X, Y, Z every month, I'm going to do that. And I don't want to think about that because that's that's your jurisdiction. You're handling that. But I would caution against that in a partnership. You need to know what everyone else is, not only what everyone else is responsible for, but that they are handling that responsibility the way that they should be.
Welcome to the Share the Wealth Show, where minority professionals can learn to escape the racial wealth gap and catapult themselves into abundance. Your host, Nicole Pendergrass, grew her net worth from being negative to multiple six figures. Join her on her investigative mission to expose secret strategies of the wealthy so we can all have the tools needed to build the life and legacy we were created to possess. Now it's time for the show.
Hey guys, so we're back again. This is the second part of the episode with today's guest. I need you, if you have not heard part one, go back to the previous episode and listen to that first, and then come back and join us here today. You need to hear the whole conversation. This is why we split into two parts. There's so many nuggets. It's so juicy. Go back and listen to the first part. Now, what about this fourth person? We'll talk about that. Well, I'll start off.
No, I'm ready.
I know you're ready. I know you're ready. I'm looking at the time too. Well, so we have time to go into it. But what I'll start saying is after 2 years or almost 2 years of attempting to wholesale and not actually having any kind of traction or success and not actually closing a wholesale, we started thinking, we didn't think, okay, well, we need to stop what we're doing. We just thought, okay, how do we pivot? Right? Mm-hmm. How do we come up with a new idea or something else that we could get into to at least, like, we spent all this time and resources and time together, and we really do want to build wealth and like have something that we're working toward. So maybe we try something else out. And we had all we had been going to a few seminars together over those couple of years. But one we went to was actually when we first learned about Bitcoin. I remember I first heard about Bitcoin there. It was $8,000 a Bitcoin. And I was like,
$800. No, not thousand, Nicole. Oh, when we learned about Bitcoin, it was $800.
Yeah.
Bitcoin was $800 when we learned about it.
All right. Okay.
Passed on that.
And I know. And at first, and I was like, oh, so even so, $800, I was just like, I'm not spending $800 on this bit. I don't even know what a Bitcoin is. Like, what am I supposed to do with it? Like, dang, man, $800.
I think about that. I have thought about that more than once. When Bitcoin was like $60,000, I was like, $800.
Bitcoin got to 60? The last time I heard was 30 something.
I don't understand this. What is it, like monopoly money? Like, I'm not. Why would I buy this? I don't want this.
Definitely we missed out on that opportunity. So
yeah, like 20, that must have been 2012-ish as well.
It might have been around there. Yeah. But you know what? At that time, like if I was where I am now financially, I would have been like, oh, let me just risk the $800. I would have bought one just to try it out. But then $800 was a hell of a lot of money. And I have like $800 to spend on this one thing that I don't know what even it is. Money. It is still a lot of money, but it was much more money to me back then than it is to me now. I mean, $800 is still a lot of money now, but depending on what I'm spending it on. Okay. Right. So I'd rather buy a Bitcoin for 800 than Louis Vuitton for 800. Both of those are a discount price. Right. So it just depends on what your priorities are. So at that same seminar, we had heard about note investing or buying non-performing notes and how you can work those.
This? My God. Huh? How do you remember this?
Oh yeah, I remember. We non-performing notes, and I don't remember the guy's name that we were going to work with. He had the program, but then they teach you how to get the note performing again, what the opportunity is, and then once the note is performing again, then you can resell that to the note marketplace or wherever they sell notes, and somebody will buy it based off like the amortization schedule and how much interest was left to be made on that note. So what we were doing is he was going to let us come in because he knew we didn't have like a lot of money to get started with this. Because with notes, you have to have the capital to buy the whole note up front. Like you can't leverage a note like with real estate. So he was letting us come into the next note that he had available. It was coming up and he had someone who wanted to, purchase it. He had someone who could split the cost of the note with us, right? So that's what we had been talking about doing and discussing with this fourth person. The other baseline I'll give quickly before I let them both jump in, because I know Verneda's chomping at the bit. She's trying to look calm right there. But this fourth person, we didn't have capital. So what we did, since she already had an LLC established, we went ahead and actually, I think Verneda and Vivian, you guys weren't sure that you wanted to do the note thing at first. And so I think we were still discussing what that looked like, if it was going to be an all four of us Covey Carver thing, or if just me and fourth person would do this on our own. So what I did.
I like the way you're saying fourth person.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I did was I personally guaranteed her business credit cards for us to do applications to get business lines of credit. We pulled capital off of those credit cards in order to use that money for the note investing, right? So that was the whole thing. And that was the mistake I made, was personally guaranteeing someone else's credit cards or with their business, right? So I was the VP of her business at the time, and that's why I was in the business and could help, consign for these credit cards. I was going to say credit card notes, but they're not, just credit cards. So now we have all this capital, and we wanted to buy a non-performing note with a guy who was doing a special thing to let us split with somebody, because he normally didn't do that, but he wanted to help us get into game. And then that's when it kind of fell apart, because she was trying to bring in another person. I don't know why she was actually telling this other person that they could come in with us and split this note with us. So I have no clue where that came from or what prompted her. She never had a discussion with us first about this. She told us after the fact. And so our response was, okay, you know what? We'll see the time frame. They needed a little bit more time. And so once we discussed with the other guy who was letting us in on this note, that time would have made us, if we had gave that person, this other person that a fourth person wanted to bring in, if we had gave them the time that they needed, we would have missed the opportunity for this note, and we would have had to wait for his next note to come be available for us to invest in. We didn't want to wait. And so I think that's where we fell apart, because she had made all these promises that were not agreed upon by all of us. And so when we voted against her, then she came up with the whole, I could just talk about this myself forever, but I'm going to stop and let you guys jump into whatever else you need to think so that we can get this finished, because this part of the episode could be like a whole nother episode. So go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, truth be told, I think this is the meat of what we wanted to come together and talk about today, right? Because it is an opportunity to give, I don't want to say a cautionary tale, but it is an opportunity, particularly for those who are early in real estate, or early in your wealth building journey. You're looking for mentorship and you're looking for partners, that there are some key things that you might want to think about, or you can learn from our experience, so that you may not have the same type of impact or setbacks or things that happen to you. So it's funny, as you're telling that story, Nicole, I actually have like a very different version in my head in terms of at least how I would tell the story. So it's just also interesting to kind of hear your thought. I'm curious to hear what Vivian's version of the story is as well, because I don't even remember this other person, that fourth person, I guess that was what we're going with today. That fourth person was trying to bring in.
Say it if we want to say it. I'll save the last name so that I'll save the last name. You already put out JT Fox, so might as well keep naming names.
Well, I'm just saying, you know how look, I'm in my Cat Williams era. Listen, I don't have to use her last name. I could do just like what I said when we were on, shout out to Business Over Breakfast on Clubhouse. Shout out to Byron and the team, because I told this story on Clubhouse. I called her con artist Carol. So con artist Carol, that is her name. That is the avatar that we're going to use today. Because for me, I use that word con artist and I don't use it lightly because I saw something much more calculated than what Nicole is describing right now. So yes, totally relate. There was the mistake of um being a personal guarantor on her business credit card.
To build wealth with real estate? Are you all tapped out on YouTube University and ready to get help tailored to your specific situation and goals? Have you always known that you are a little different from the crowd, that you never liked following the status quo, and that you're just tired of living in mediocrity? You want to build wealth on your own terms outside of Wall Street? Well, then maybe the Microfamily Mavericks mentorship program can help with that. It's a community where I handhold you through the process of buying your first small commercial multifamily building, because not everyone is ready for 100 units out the gate. Why multifamily? Because it gives your rental income a hedge against vacancy. Imagine what happens when your single family rental tenant leaves, right? And why commercial 5+ units? Because you have much more control over increasing the building's value in the commercial space, and then in turn, increasing your own net worth. Starting small is a stepping stone to so much more, because then you can tap that equity and buy another building and another and another, and you get the point. So increasing your cash flow and your ability to be job optional along the way. It's all a part of the journey. So if you think big, but you want to start small, and if you know multifamily real estate is the way for you to open the door to building a life of freedom, abundance, and legacy, but you just need someone to guide you step by step, and you want to be surrounded by other people on the same journey, doing the same thing, then just click the link in the show notes to find out a little bit more about the Microfamily Mavericks, and I look forward to potentially seeing you on the inside. So now back to the show.
But I also remember, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like when the capital was pulled, the capital also didn't even come to you, Nicole. Like you were the personal guarantor, but when they pulled the capital off the cards, it went into Carol's bank account. So we really were dependent on Carol following through with that cash flow because it had gone into her bank account. The other thing that jumps out at me is that while I don't remember like a fifth person being a part of the conversation, I do recall that moment of disagreement of like, how do we want to proceed forward? And it should have been a majority rules situation. If you are in a group and you're working as business partners and you have a vote, the majority, that is the integral thing to do, that you move forward. And so when she was outvoted, instead of, continue to move forward with the majority or even giving back the capital, say, hey, I'm not interested in doing it, she stole it from us. And I'm not even going to say us, really. She stole it from Nicole because it was in Nicole's name. Now, separately, as our business began to dissolve, we all had put money into the business, and I had a credit card debt for our real estate business based on the JT Fox scenarios because I put up my credit card for the JT Fox mentorship. But everybody paid in. Vivian put in her share, Nicole put in her share. Carol did not. Carol still owes me $600 now. But that does pale in comparison to the several thousands of dollars that you incurred.
Tens of thousands. It was at least almost, it was right under 20 or around 20, I feel like, from the 3 different credit cards that we got. Because I know the smallest one was Bank of America, and that was 10. And then the other 2 might have been around between 3 and 6 each. So total, we had 3 cards, and I think it was about $20,000. And they started calling me.
And that might, I was going to say, please tell that part, because that could be beneficial to someone to understand that even though it was under Carol's business, the bank called you.
Oh, yeah. And then the bank, they called me after it got to 3 months late, because at first she was paying. Her whole thing was, I was like, use all that money just to pay back the cards. But she was like, I'm just going to pay it, monthly. I'm going to keep paying the monthly payment, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to pay it out of my own funds, because she had to use that money for something. I don't know what she had to use it for, but she had to use that money. So she's going to keep up with paying the monthly payments. And it was basically like, so she was doing that for a little while. And all of a sudden I started getting calls, and it was asking me about that card and the payment. And I'm like, what? No, she's making payments. Like that is, my ex-business partner, and she had the money for the cars, and she's making the payments on them. And so I had to like go back and forth. And then like it got to the point where they were calling me so much, I stopped answering my phone. And I hate when, or the card, they sell their debt to a credit collector, and the credit collectors are very persistent, like hounding you. And that started happening to me. And this was at the point I had already bought my 3-family. I had started, like, I was getting my credit was great at that point. Like, and I had spent years getting my credit back together because I ruined it in college. So I know what it felt like having credit collectors call you, because I had that happen to me in college, but that was because of my own fault. Now it was because I was too mistrusting of someone else, and trusting that they were going to actually pay when they had the money. So I was on the hook for that. Fast forward, because I know we do need to tie the ends, but fast forward, I basically ended up paying like some settlement amount for 2 of the cars, and the third one, I think I was getting to the point of gonna pay that, and ended up not. And then I stopped getting, because whatever time frame they stopped contacting you, they just basically write it off as, a lost debt or whatever. The only thing that saved me was that it was business credit. Was not on my personal report, even though when we opened those cars, they told us the only way it'll show on your personal is if you default. So that should have 100,000% been now showing on my personal as I have these judgments. It does not. So that is the only thing that's saving me right now and keeping my credit good. By the grace of God, I have no clue what happened or changed in laws or regulations or whatever during that time frame. I'm gonna leave it right there. But I've learned a big lesson from that.
You good now?
I'm good now. Yeah, I'm good now. Yes. But I've learned a big lesson. I will never, don't ask me to personally guarantee anything for y'all or anybody else. I just can't do it. That's a big lesson. What else y'all got to say about this?
I know, I'm curious.
What's the biggest lesson
what was your
Viv, yeah.
I know, like, what was your take, Viv?
And what's the biggest lesson you learned from this? And I guess I want to wrap with, how can people vet more appropriately? Like, what should you look out for as red flags? Like, at least from what you took from the experience,
I think you have to be more selective with people that you partner with. Just because you are seemingly like-minded, like everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. I just took for granted that, okay, this person, it was decided that this person is going to handle the money. Okay, I know I'm responsible with money. If you tell me you got to put in XYZ every month, I'm going to do that. And I don't want to think about that because that's that's your jurisdiction. You're handling that. But I would caution against that. In a partnership, you need to know what everyone else is, not only what everyone else is responsible for, but that they are handling that responsibility the way that they should be. Don't take it for granted that just because, I would do whatever, I would handle whatever I'm supposed to handle, that you are also handling whatever you're supposed to handle. If, over time you build up that trust. But I think initially I was too trusting of that person without really knowing, really knowing her business wise, I would say.
Well, you know what I had to add? We were trusting of her, but because by the time we did these credit cards with her, we had been working together for 2 years, seeing her like constantly on phone, text threads, email threads, meeting every week, going to all these events, doing all these things that we were doing. So this wasn't an overnight, like, trust her with a credit card. This was 2 years in the work. We even did vacation together out in the Hamptons. Like, we did stuff together. Like, it was turning into a friendship partnership. It's just that as soon as as soon as money was involved, it turned different. So knowing how people handle stress and money situations, also, for anyone listening, make sure if you're in a partnership, you have access to bank accounts, and there's some kind of wording or signed agreement on how you can take out documents and that or withdrawals, and like it has to have 2 people's signatures or 3 people's signatures or however, but have that in writing, so if you ever do have to take someone to court, you could say this clearly was not followed and this is something that we both signed. Good luck collecting when you actually have a judgment, because that's a whole nother thing, but at least you have like you could get the judgment.
Well, I was getting ready to say, I was like, oh, it's London. I was gonna say similar, Nicole. I really like that piece about like the written agreement, checks and balances. I think that would have been helpful in this situation.
We had a partnership.
But then I also thought maybe perhaps there would have been. I mean, I wasn't in all of the ins and outs, but I do wonder if there would have been a way that the capital could have been split up from the beginning, so like no one person had the whole lot.
Are you enjoying this episode? Then stop what you're doing right now. Head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It really helps our show get pushed to more people who are looking for the information that we're sharing here. We have to share the wealth. If you listen to us on YouTube, make sure you like the episode that you're listening to right now and subscribe to our channel. Then share the channel with somebody else. There are people out there looking for the information you're listening to right now, so make sure you share it with someone who you know needs it. Now, back to the show.
I do agree that this was a hard situation because I developed a sense of trust with this person, but it was a different dynamic. Just for anyone out there, this is for just in terms of what the 3 of us experienced. We all came to the partnership as lifelong friends already. We had already known each other for a decade, gone to college, and had built a level of trust, a level of friendship. And then the 4th person that came in was someone that we met and kind of became.
And I'm sorry, it's somebody I met at a seminar, and I brought her to the group, so that's completely my fault.
Well,
yeah,
I can't. I mean, I don't want you to feel like it was like your fault. I feel like, I mean, for me, I feel like I was just as like, okay, cool. Carol's working with us, so and I think too, and I mean, and the part of me hates to say this because I'm all about us thriving together as Black people. That not all skin folk are kinfolk. And that comes out in lots of different ways. So like for me, my expectation would be that another Black woman would walk with a certain level of integrity when she's in business with Black women. And unfortunately, this person did not do that. So not all skin folk.
Actually, that's going to be the title of this episode.
Even if you think you met someone that fits all that criteria, bottom line is you can't foresee every single situation. So maybe you do think things are working out, and then it just doesn't. That's life. Sometimes you have everything, you do everything the right way, or you have all of the checks in place before you take a step, or you vet people out, and then they turn. So it's not like I don't want to say I'm scared to I don't want to scare people from like partnering, with other Black people or something like that, but it's just one of those things that happened. It's not going to happen to everyone every time. So don't be deterred from it, but it's just one cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Life lessons.
And actually, oh, sorry, go ahead, Verneda.
Well, I was just going to say, and it is life lessons. I mean, one thing I can say that I'm enjoying about this next phase of life, as you will, like we started out the talk today talking about, like being grown, like being 20 years out of college. I have had so many experiences that I can now draw on that only thing that you can really talk about is like in the sense of like wisdom. You can't gain wisdom just from like theory or a book. A lot of it has to come from experiences. And I value that. And so, for everyone out there, like know that like life is going to life. And you pick back up. Extremely proud of you, Nicole. You have kept moving forward and building your real estate empire. And then I moved in a different direction. I'm like, from a service-based business consultancy, moving into apparel and retail, the anti-racism space, like all of these stacked together in terms of life experiences that will eventually show like our greater purpose. And so it's going to come full circle, and everybody just has your own journey and path. Don't ever be deterred by your setbacks because they are truly a setup for a comeback.
I love that. I love that. So we're going to dive into Digest with the Guest, which is the last segment for the show where I ask all the guests the same questions. This is going to be a fire round answer segment because we got to wrap. But anyway, and I'm going to switch. I'll ask Verneda the first question. I'll ask Vivian the second question. The third question I'll ask you both. Then there's a fourth question where the guest from a previous episode has asked a question for you guys, not knowing who you are. So you'll answer that and come up with a question for the next guest. So there's a lot. We got 5 minutes to do all this. So Warren Buffett said diversification is protection against ignorance. I take that to mean that basically people diversify because they don't know what they're doing. What is your take on that?
It's an opportunity if you frame it correctly. So I do believe in diversification. I've learned the hard way in some ways that having all of your eggs in one basket does not always work out. However, take responsibility for your own financial literacy, take responsibility for your own wealth building journey, take responsibility to understand the financial instruments that you are investing in, because no one can do that for you. Yes, we can pay people, you can hire people, you can get mentorship, but at the end of the day, no matter who you have overseeing your portfolio, it's your responsibility at the end of the day to educate yourself. Don't blame your parents and what they didn't give you. Because at this point, what you gonna do? Take the time to educate yourself and let that diversification be an opportunity for you to start on your wealth building journey.
Love that. Viv, in the game of Monopoly, Boardwalk or Baltic? What are you buying first in your strategy to win the game and why?
It depends. I'm buying whatever I land on first. If I have the money to whatever money I have, wherever I land on, I'm buying that.
So you're taking that opportunity.
Does that count as an answer? You said or.
Yeah.
So
I said or, but that counts as an answer. I do get that answer. People do say that.
okay.
So it's cool. It's cool.
Okay.
All right, for both of you, Fitspire answers. What does wealth mean to you?
Health is wealth.
Fitspire at different times so we can hear you. So, all right, who's going first?
You wanted more than one answer?
No, but like you said, your answers at the same time, so I didn't know what either of you
said. I said health is wealth.
Love it.
And I said freedom.
Love it. Okay, I love both of those. All right. Question that the last guest asked for you guys. So first, be thinking in the back of your head, what question you would want to leave for the next guest. You can come up with your own question. So we might have 2 questions for the next guest. That's fine. But the last guest, Lee and Eunice Johnson, they were on talking about whole life insurance and banking on yourself policies and things like that. But their question was, are you living the best version of yourself? And if not, why? What's the fear or the barrier that's holding you back? But if you are, how did you get to that?
Yes, meditation.
I would say, I don't know. You got more to do?
No, that was a spitfire answer, and that was perfect. Okay.
Mine is yes and. Yes, I'm living my best life or my best version of myself because every one of us can only be in the present. I am the best version of who I can be right now with my level of experience, tools, spiritual journey, confidence, all of those pieces, working to release my traumas, all of those things. So I am at the best of myself today, and my journey's not done. So I believe the best is yet to come.
I love that. That's great. Yay. I'm so glad we did this episode. It was a trip down memory reminiscing lane. Good and bad of that, but you never lose, you only learn. So just keep learning with everything that you're going through and pushing it forward, and you'll be ready and have more skills and be stronger to deal with the next hurdle, because life is just full of hurdles. It's just how you navigate those. How can listeners connect with you if they want to talk more, they want to pick your brain about your experiences, or I don't know, just network?
LinkedIn. I'm
Okay,
not
just
big
under
on
your name?
social media though. I'll say that. I'm not big on social media. But honestly, probably Gmail would be the better answer.
All right, so I will
Email
put
me.
your Gmail, Vivian Wright at gmail.com, right?
Vivian.Wright. Vivian Wright is
Vivian.Wright.
somewhere
Okay.
else because
Oh,
I
somewhere
get
else.
her emails. Shout out to Vivian
Vivian.
Wright, whoever you are.
So I will put Vivian's email in the show notes if anyone wants to reach out to her. And Verneda?
And for myself, you can catch me at Verneda Adele, 2 A's in the middle. Instagram, Clubhouse, even though Clubhouse is not what it was, but Clubhouse. Definitely can catch me on TikTok, LinkedIn. So at Verneda Adele. And of course, you got to check out America's Hot Sauce, americashotsauce.club. And thank you for my friends. They got the merch. We are the hot sauce.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you guys. And that is a wrap for everyone listening. Thank you so much for being here. And we will see you on the next. Oh, I didn't get the question that you guys have for the next guest.
I thought that was like offline. Okay.
Oh.
Well, I know mine. Mine is, why does Black wealth matter?
Like that?
That's a good one.
I mean, I could just lump that into, if you agree with that question, I could lump that into one.
That's a great question.
Okay. All right,
I second
everyone.
that question.
Okay, second the question. So everyone, we will see you next time or hear you next time. And we will be asking the next guest, why does Black wealth matter? All right. Have a good evening or night or morning or whenever you're listening to this. Peace
Have
out.
a good day.
Thank you, Nicole. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Viv.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both. Bye.
Bye.
Did you love this episode of Share the Wealth Show? Be sure to connect with Nicole by following her on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. If you picked up any of the gems that were dropped by today's guest, make sure you not only put them in your bag, but if you know of someone who would benefit from this information, don't keep it to yourself. Share the wealth and make sure to leave us a rating and review. We'll see you for next week's episode. Subscribe so you'll be notified.